Hey guys, Jen here. Give me a second to share my screen. I gotta give you a little background because I'm sure the title is confusing the heck out of people if I've not changed it by the time that this is posted. So I have to share something with you, of course, that offers background. So let me share my screen and make sure that's up. I'm gonna make sure the video is playing on my phone. Looks like it is. All right. We talked about Moses a little bit on a live stream several days ago when we were looking at ancient texts, or we should have. If we didn't yet, then I will have to remind myself to go back and do that next. But I do believe that we did that live and spoke a little bit about Moses. And oddly enough, the way things work, these topics don't always seem to go together, but they came up at the same time. So I want to show you exactly how it happened to me. And this is going to be kind of like research with me style because I haven't looked at a lot of this yet. And so we can do that. Sorry, we can do that together. All right. So, up for you. I started watching streaming Little House on the Prairie. I've not been feeling great, as people know, and again, it has nothing to do with the way I'm eating. I'd probably be feeling a lot worse if I was eating differently, but I turned on Little House on the Prairie, and so I've been kind of binging on that because it's kind of wholesome. And again, when I watch things, there's certain things that I'm watching for. So as I'm watching this, a topic comes up. Now, this is kind of a powder keg topic, and we need to be sensitive addressing it, but we need to be also open about addressing topics. And we do have the freedom of speech. And if people like Candace Owens can lead the charge and openly disagree with people of other religions, um, and still, maintain her channel, I'm pretty sure that we can look at these things too. So I was watching Little House on the Prairie, and they were doing what they do, and they were trying to teach a lesson, or they were teaching a lesson about prejudice and why you shouldn't be prejudiced, obviously, and why that's a bad thing to be prejudiced. Give me 1 second here. Just checking, making sure it's working. So they were teaching a lesson in the episode that I was watching about being prejudiced. And maker, oddly enough, um, respects his job, dignity of human beings when they pass on, especially much because he is a Jewish person. And I was raised in the city, so we're pretty open. We're not exposed to a lot of hate, at least in the city. It's different. It's more like jocks and smart people and poor people than it is about religion or where you're from. In the city, it's more about money as far as status quo goes. So I didn't experience a lot of anti-Semitic. I can't even say it because I didn't experience it, and I didn't promote it because I didn't know what it was. In the city, you're just not raised the same. Um, and so I'm watching this episode, and I'm like, wow, they're going to approach this topic on Little House on the Prairie, and this was like 1985, right? And they bring up, how there's cliches and things that we've never heard of. Once as you age, certain things go out of fashion or and God forbid, thank goodness, certain stereotypes do go away. But the kids were teasing this young man who took up the apprenticeship, and they were asking him if he had horns. And I'm like, how is it that these kids know this stuff? Because I didn't hear anything about Moses having horns until like 2 years ago, to be perfectly honest with you. And I love art, and I'd never seen the statue with Moses and the horns and Michelangelo. I mean, albeit Vinci is my favorite, but so I watched this episode and I'm like, I have to find out where this stereotype came from. Like, I need to know the origins of this because this is when I was growing up and I'd never heard of this. And it's an old show. So I look it up, and wouldn't you know, there's a link about this episode, and they use it to teach about the history of some misreported facts from World War II. And I thought I would use the opportunity to bring you this information. What you do with it is up to you. Hatred will not be tolerated on the channel, but what you do with the information is completely up to you. It's from Israel My Glory, I think is the website we're going to look at. And it goes through like these bullet points of stereotypes. But again, this isn't exactly, we're not going to look at, we're going to look at this as a chance to look at media literacy. And since allegedly people all over the country have the ability to watch this channel, or they should, I don't consent to censorship. That is each individual's job to maintain their eye gates, ear gates, and whatnot. Um, we're going to look at this article because Little House on the Prairie brought this to me, and I had no idea that this stereotype even existed. And again, I didn't even know Moses was depicted as having horns until a couple of years ago myself. So first I want you to look at this because this is horn in English, obviously. I'm on the wrong screen. I got to go actual web page so you can see me. Okay, so this is horn in English. And it says, these are the ways to say it. And horn just sounds like horn. And the other way is Zophar. And if you know what a Zophar is, it's another book. And the Jewish person in this episode, he references the Zophar. Now, I didn't think that was for all Hebrews, but apparently, I don't know. It's pretty. Like I said, they mentioned it on the show, and so I'm taking. It's amazing what you can learn on a television show that's supposed to be based in, mostly fiction. But Laura Ingalls, these are stories that allegedly took place in a colonial America in the early like 1800s. Now, the problem with this is we know that a lot of our history is a lie, and that's why we're looking at this today to see what it looks like to us as adults and to see if we can discern anything different than what we were taught in school. And now that we have more information available to us, we're not limited to textbooks. It's our responsibility to look at certain things, find out where they originated, and not pass on lies, right, to the next generation. So we're going to look at some of this because we're open-minded adults. We're not going to have any hatred, and we're just seeking truth. So another word for horn is Hatzofer, and that's exactly how it sounds. I already played it for myself. It's Hatzofer. And then again, the Zophar is also a book, and it's also the shofar is what you blow into. Um, what is it called? The Zoroastrians, maybe? We'll have to look at that, but we're going to look at this first. I have a link to pull up. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment just so I don't lose a bunch of internet bandwidth. And I'm pull this link up and share it with you guys. No, no, no. No, no, no. There we go. All right. Now I should be able to share this link with you. I hope. Okay. Please tell me I didn't drop my whole connection. Okay, good. There we go. I wanted to take a look at it. We're not going to. My point is trying to figure out what's going on with Moses. Why did Michelangelo depict Moses with horns? Like, I want to know that. And so we're going to take a look at what Israel My Glory has to say, because I don't know a lot about Jewish roots and Hebrew roots. And if that's where Jesus come from, then I want to know where these things originated and what happened with them. Now, what I found really interesting too is that, again, I was watching Little House on the Prairie and I Googled, why did the kids on Little House ask the Jewish person if he had horns under his hat? Because I wanted to know where this hateful stereotype came from. Because, in our English culture, horns are depicted as being demonic. But let's be clear. People also blow into the shofar. And you know how I feel kind of about the Old Testament. So I'm seeking truth here. This isn't about hatred. This is about, who are we here with? Are we all human beings? Are we all of mankind? Is each continent housing a different humanoid person? Like, I don't know. I've never been anywhere. I'm finding out every day. I know very, very little about the world I grew up in. And so I have to learn from others, and I have to be able to discern what the truth is. Now, Little House on the Prairie is an older show, and this link came out in 95, it says, unless it's crediting the picture. But when you get to the bottom, there's a comment from 2022, which I found pretty interesting, especially considering what I know about that year at this point. So let's see what they have to say. Because again, I'd never heard this. I want to know why Moses is depicted with horns, and we're going to toggle back and forth. So again, this is how it came to me because I had never heard of this. I grew up in the city. We're all pretty open with each other there. The way our groups were segregated was jocks and smart people and rich and poor. So it wasn't based on religion where I grew up, or ethnicity so much. It was status. So it says several years ago there was a TV series called Little House on the Prairie. One of the show's characters. Now this is the show I was watching, and it was such a good episode. I cried, of course I cried. A youngster named Albert became friendly with an elderly Jewish man. The kids at school made fun of Albert because they ignorantly believed many falsehoods about the Jewish people. One of the things they told Albert was under the man's hat. Remember that? Keep it under your hat. If you want to keep a secret, they would say keep it under your hat. And remember, I did that episode about the top hats and Willy Wonka and the Freemasons, and about how everybody in like those old pictures from like the World's Fair in the early 1900s showed all these men with top hats. I don't know. It's just, that's why I look at this stuff. I want to know where these cliches came from and what their origins were. And they always tell us how we're so much more civilized today. But the further along we go, the less true and outright false that is. You can see that for yourselves. I don't have to be able to tell you anything. And again, I don't believe in making blanket statements. I don't think one complete group is bad or evil compared to another complete group. I think that all of us have the ability to do sinful things. I don't think we have sin in us so much as we do in say things that are sinful, right, against each other. And Christ told us to love each other. So I want to make that very clear on this channel. I might get upset at people. I might get upset at people for lying, but I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in violence. Um, I've lost my temper in life just like everybody else has. I've broken things just like everybody else has in this world today. I'm traumatized just like everybody else is. The whole point is none of us is innocent here. So we're trying to seek truth. And if we have to learn from an old show like Little House on the Prairie, I'm fine with that. It doesn't matter to me. So the children said he was hiding his horns. Now I'd never heard this. Many people believe that the Jewish people were demonic. Albert did not want to believe his friends, but he had never met a Jewish person before, so he wanted to be sure. He tried different ways to get the man to remove his hat, but to no avail. Finally, he told the old man what his schoolmates had said. The old man smiled, took off his hat, and to Albert's relief and embarrassment, there were no horns. This fictional story, set in the late 1800s, brought out a very important belief with roots going back to the Middle Ages. Now, again, I'd never heard of this. Now, the reason I have the etymology up, or I had the etymology up, is because of this part here. One of the most famous artists in history. His frescoes on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican are world renowned. His marble sculpture of the great Jewish King David is 15, interesting number there. Michelangelo fit Moses, complete with horns protruding. Although the horns, sculpted onto Moses' head, were the result of an unfortunate mistranslation of a word in the statue has perpetuated the horns myth since the Middle Ages. Hold please, because guess what I have right here? You know what I have. Everybody knows what a geek I am. I have, you can't hear me, can you? I have the Latin Vulgate right here. And I already highlighted it. And I have it in the glossary. And it's right above, or it's right below the word Corinthus, Corinth, and above the word corona, crown. It says cornu or cornus. Yeah, so it's the same in Hebrew as it is in the Latin Vulgate. It's the same. So maybe he had the in Italy at this time, everyone knew Latin. And Florence had their own like romanicized version of it. That's what they called it. I just looked it up. But that's weird. So let's keep reading. Many who view Michelangelo's Moses and the fictional characters living on the prairie have been exposed to a myth, which is defined by Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, 10th edition, as an unfounded or false notion. Hello, that's false too. Myth in the Latin root means history. Myth, the Latin root of the word myth, mythology, means history. Now, again, you know that languages are my thing. Words and languages are my jam. That's where I dwell. If you understand the verbiage, please give the video a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And again, we're not getting into anything hateful here. We're looking at what we were taught when we were children and how that's changed since today, like now. Now, I'm going to bounce over because I want to look at something I want you to see. This part, and then we're going to bounce back over there, okay? And yes, we'll get to the London Bridge because after I was briefly looking into this, again, I don't look too deep into this stuff. I want you guys to see it with me for the first time so that if anything synchronistic does occur, you're here with me. And I was not going to include London Bridge in the title because that's just going to be a part of this video. That's just going to be more circumstantial evidence as far as I'm concerned about why we do what we do on this channel and why it's such a niche that's needed. These compilations you're watching of the TikTok, you know, anything can happen outside of a frame. You don't know what's going on outside of the frame. Anything can happen within an edited 20-second video. If we do this together, though, the actual research for it, it will stick and you will retain it and you will learn, which is a good thing. It's good brain work for you, for us together. And it brings us together as a community, whatever our community may be. We definitely truth seekers. I've had Muslims here. I had well, when I hid the first channel, all my subscriptions appeared, so I don't even remember his channel name. But I've had a variety of different people throughout the years helping us with this stuff. Right now, it's just me. So if anyone else wants to help out, that'd be greatly appreciated. So I am going to include what I learned about the London Bridge. But again, we're going to look at this real quick. Moses, and I thought it would be a quick video, but I don't know. We'll see. Moses is a sculpture by the Italian high Renaissance artist Michelangelo, housed in the Basilica of San Pietro in Vincoli in Rome, real close to the Vatican. Now, you should ask yourself, why is the Vatican charged with all of these marble statues? Why do you think that is? I was also subbed at one point in time, and I've shared the channel before, but I can't find it again, of course, about a person who believes that all of these old granite and marble statues were once alive. And that could actually be possible if there was a being like Medusa. Now, I know we're getting into stuff here, and you're like, wow, this is just off the rails. That's what we do here. This is our history as a species, as a multi-species plane or realm. And I want to know the truth. And if you want to know the truth, you're always welcome here, as far as I'm concerned. As long as you're not spewing hate or venom, we're good. Sorry, my foot needed itched. I'm having foot issues. All right. Commissioned in 1505 by Pope Julius II for his tomb, It depicts the biblical figure Moses with horns on his head, based on a description in chapter 34 of Exodus in the Vulgate, the Latin translation of the Bible used at that time. But again, I just showed you how similar the words are. Sense. The Latin translation of the Bible at the time, some scholars believe the use of horns may often hold an anti-Semitic implication, while others hold that it is simply a convention based on the translation error. Okay, now I'm personally tired of everything being untitled that they don't want us to know and them gaslighting us with hatred. Just because someone says we're being hateful because we want to know the truth, that doesn't mean it's true. These people have, the people who run things, whoever they are, the fallen ones, whatever they are, their progeny, their children, the hybrids, because they were here before the flood and after too, for whatever reason, um, they want us to be gaslighted. They know we want to be good children of whoever. Most of us want to do right. Most of us want to follow the law. Um, and we know the law is there to protect the people from those who would seek most people. And they know this about us. They know we want to be good and do good. And so when that goes against their narrative, they tell us that's gaslighting 101. That's, they want you to feel guilty. They want you to feel shame. That way they can control you better. You guys still there with me? Hello? 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 Should I keep going? Why does this keep happening? Okay, there. Jeez Louise. They just won't leave my channel alone. I'm like, for real, dude. It's publicly available information that anyone go look up. And the websites are reputable websites from Israel. So seriously. Just seriously. It's stupid. It makes you look pathetic when you come after a small channel like mine. All right. So some scholars believe that it was a mistranslation. Sigmund Freud's interpretations of the statue from 1916 are particularly well known. I had never heard about his. Some interpretations of the sculpture, including Freud, note a demotic force, but also, does he mean demonic? But also as a beautiful figure with an emotional intensity as God's word is revealed. The delicacy of some of the features, such as Moses' flowing hair, are seen as a remarkable technical achievement, but Freud argues that Michelangelo goes beyond mere skills to why Moses plays with his hair and why he is with horns and flowing hair. Now, in the culture of Jewish people, though, they had long hair. It's like they wouldn't cut their hair and their beards. Can I share this? Are we looking at this? Let me make sure you guys are seeing it. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this beautiful work of art. Now, after war, anytime there is a war going on, and this is why I told you I knew years ago, and most of us did, that there was something more happening than what we were being told. Okay. Whenever there is international discourse or discord happening, you will see valuable works of art start being transported all over the place, all over the earth. And wherever it ends up, like that's the safe place. That's where it's safe to be. That's where bad, wicked things aren't going to happen. Okay. I wouldn't say he's actually like playing with his hair there. I think he's more or less like holding it out of the way of something, almost to show something else. But I can't, obviously I'm not close enough to see. Well, let me zoom in. No, I want to go closer. Like, what is that? Is that his like sash under there? Or is that more hair? Is that like a dreadlock? What are we looking at? Oh, hello. Yeah, you can come out now. Yeah, that's more hair there. Wow, guys, that's rad. I would give almost anything to see that up close. All right, now I want to look at his eyes. All right, I have a theory I want to tell you. Eyes in all the Egyptian pictures. First, you got the noses that are broken off, and you got eyes that they don't have an actual pupil. Well, I think that's and why how they find black goo on their sarcophagus. Well, I think the black goo is what animates the pantheons of the Egyptians, the Egyptian royalties. Okay, um, and I think that's why you don't see any pupils made and that's why they're creepy is because they don't have humanity to them. Right? There's no human esque type of thing happening there. Now, we know that Moses obviously was a prophet. He was a godly man. He walked with God. God told him, I will not always strive with man. I will give you. That's why I know our lives are cut short because if we were each given 120 years before the flood, then after the flood and after Christ, we should be living much longer, not shorter. I think everything they're telling us is a lie, just about. Okay, now he doesn't actually have, though. I mean, to be fair, they're not like ginormous horns or anything. They're just a couple of things peeking out. Now, how do you feel about it? I want to be very blunt about this too. Horns, lack thereof, whether you have them, whether you don't, these things don't make a person evil. My question is truth. The truth matters. What is the truth? Now, he was an artist in the 1500s, as we just saw, okay? I know there are some really talented people out there. I've seen some, I've met some, I've seen their work up close. I'm just really wondering at this point if they're actually statues. Moses, his body, when Moses decided to sit down, basically, that's what we talked about this the other day on the other live stream. When he decided to do that, all right, how do I get away from you now? How do I get you out of here? Oh, come on. I'm going to go to this page and I'm going to share this so that I can X the picture out and go back to the Wikipedia. There we go. Okay. All right. So we're going to come back over here just for a minute. Now, Freud argues that Michelangelo to provoke curiosity in the viewer, asking why Moses plays with his hair and why he is presented with horns and flowing hair. Watch this. Haven't I been telling you death isn't exactly what we think it is? Oh, for the... I'm just going to share with you guys watching. Now, this. But when the archangel Michael, contending with the devil, was disputing about the body of Moses, he did not presume to pronounce a blasphemous judgment, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." Now, there's something missing in the original biblical canonical text because it does not tell us what happened to his body. It does not tell us where it goes. It does say that the Lord buried him right outside of the promised land. Okay. Now, this is something I've went round and round with and about, and I've tried to find different information about, and it's supposed to be in the secret testimony of Moses's. Yeah, because we just looked at this the other day, and it cuts off right before. So I can't find it anywhere. This is one thing that I go back to all the time, and I cannot find anything that actually says what happens to it. Okay. Desert Hills Bible Church. That is a Mormon site, I do believe, and they have more books about Moses than the rest of us. So I'm gonna do this. I'll be right with you again. I'm gonna share this page with you. Give me 1 second. Here we are. All right, pull this up. All right, so the canonical record of the death and burial of Moses is shrouded in mystery. In Deuteronomy 34, verse 1 says, Now Moses went up from the plain of Moab to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho, and the Lord showed him all the land, Gilead as far as Dan. A few verses later, it adds, So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord, and he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no man knows his burial place to this day. After seeing the promised land from afar, Moses died alone in the presence of the Lord. Then something mysterious happened. Moses did not have a normal funeral and burial. The text says that he, presumably Yahweh, buried Moses in a secret grave. Nothing in this chapter mentions the devil, Michael, or a dispute about Moses' body. The mysterious nature of Moses' burial proved to be fertile soil in which Jewish speculations and legends would grow. One source of discussion was a Jewish work entitled The Assumption of Moses. That's what we looked at a few days ago. If you weren't here and you're curious and hearing what it had to say, we do get into that. And nobody is here now. I'll try not to be discouraged and just keep going. All right, so there. Another Jewish text called the Testament of Moses also mentions these events, although scholars are divided whether these were two separate works or the same work under two titles. Whatever the case, the text of these writings is incomplete, and the part that refers to Moses' burial has been lost. We only know that these writings speak about Moses' burial from early church scholars who reference these works. To complicate matters further, Jude might never have seen these writings and could have been referring to an oral tradition familiar to his original readers. Regardless of the specific source, we can conclude that Jews knew about this tradition since Jude assumes they understand what he is discussing without further context. Or that somebody sliced and diced that part of the script and took it out. Does this mean the original text or tradition Jude references was the inspired word of God? No. See, and they don't want you to know. They give you the bare minimum. If anyone, no offense, if anyone can be saved, like salvation is a process, and there's just so little that we know. And it's no wonder that certain people get frustrated and walk away. They don't have faith yet to fill in the gaps. And what they need is evidence. You know, we all believe through different means and different ways, unfortunately. So now I'm going to go back to Are There Horns Under the Hat? And again, and I do things the way that I do them in the order that I do them. And there's a wait to the middle of videos to go back to certain things. And so now I'm going to let that sit with you and marinate for a little while. Where is Moses's body? How is that sculpture so detailed and specific? Did Moses have horns? I'm not saying it's demonic. Here's the thing. The Catholic Church, they put gargoyles on the Catholic Church to scare away evil spirits. To scare away evil spirits. Everything that we know is a little bit backwards. Things that are beautiful to us, like allegedly Lucifer comes as an angel of light. That's beauty to us. So again, we can't judge by physical attributes. My whole point in this is truth. We need and deserve the truth at this point. We have sought, we have had rifts in our families. And I'm not saying we had nothing to do with that, not at all. But I'm saying most of us at this point only want and only are seeking truth. So it says, The Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary says myth means false. Actually, when you translate, myth is a Greek word. Myth means history. So that's already one point in this article's disfavor, is they're incorrect about that lie. That's very easy to find. I found it. Anyone can. The Jewish people have long been the target of myths. Can we say lies? Why wouldn't you just use the word lies? Because again, it's a word game. It is these false notions that have been used to deny one of the most documented events in all of human history, and that is, you know what? At the root of each of these myths, should we just call them lies? Because again, myth means history if you're Greek, is the venom of anti Semitism. It can be camouflaged and cloaked to look like superstition or a fairy tale. But as allegedly Adolf said, make the lie big, make it simple, keep saying it. Repetition. It's the simplest form of persuading someone even to go against their own beliefs and values and morals. And you learn that in Psych 101. Most people learn it in high school. I did. Misconstrued theology is, in which this is very true, is also at the root of various lies about the Jewish people. Although Jesus was a Jew, lived in Israel, and chose Jewish disciples, and although destroyed in AD 70 was used as proof of this rejection. It later would be argued that the Jewish people killed Christ, thus the new Israel church would take the place of the temple. This false theology was the starting point for prejudice against Jewish people. And again, this is all perspective. My perspective on this, I mean, it's in the Bible. It tells us what happened. We know very well what happens. It was Pontius Pilate, who was a Roman, and it was the rabbis. It was the religious and political leaders of that time. That's who, I mean, it's fact. It's historical fact. People know this. The list of religious leaders who use Bible verses to justify hate runs long. I don't know who this person is. In the late 300s. Oh, said people were capable of contaminating the population. Martin Luther, the great reformer who at one time called on Christians to treat kindly, later wrote a book. Okay, I'm not reading that. I'm not saying it. During the Middle Ages, they were seen as greedy, dirty, and diseased liars. They were viewed as conspirators, as the enemy of the church, as aimless wanderers. Their very existence meant the downfall of their host nation. Myths of this intricate intrinsically evil character and conspiracy to defeat Gentiles have stuck like glue. I've never heard most of these things said about them. I've not heard of the aimless wanderer thing. They own all of the businesses. Like that's just not. Christ was the only one that wandered, and he was nomadic. And personally, again, a lot of Native Americans were nomadic as well, because you follow the sun, because that's how you eat. So you have food. I'm so sick of this hatred. But that's the whole point of looking at certain things, is again, there's a lot of misinformation on both sides. And it says, no wonder they were accused of poisoning wells, spreading disease such as the Black Plague, and stealing away children for, you know what? Perpetuating these myths was simple, since Judaism taught a separatist lifestyle. So does, holy means set aside. And that is true. A lot of people will say that of cults, that they look wicked and horrible on the outside. Many people on the inside say we were just a family. We were just people who were like-minded. We started a community. And that's the thing. Like back in the day, people lived as tribes, as communities, and some traveled, some didn't. Some married outside of their tribes, some didn't. I mean, they were culture is so broad and all encompassing into every part of our history and present and future. But this is what I want to show you about perspective, is that this is how they see it from their standpoint. They've only experienced, from other people outside of their own tribe, they've only experienced hatred. So they know nothing else, right? Most of these things I've never heard of. I've never heard anybody I know speak this well. I've heard a couple people speak about some of these things, but most of these things I've never even heard of from those people. Like this is very old info. Again, this is from the 90s. Now, you have to go to the root though. I'm not telling you what to believe, receive, accept as truth. That part's up to you. I know what I think and believe. You should be able to see the inconsistencies as we go forward. It must be remembered that many countries allowed Jewish people to thrive. Yet, well, I would hope so. They were the money changers, right? Yet, while things might go well for a time, all it took was some difficulty, some inexplicable problem to provide a reason to persecute these people. Thus, the Crusades, Inquisition, and pogroms were burned into Jewish history. A document written at the turn of the 20th century entitled The Protocols of the Elders of Zion played on the myth of a Jewish conspiracy. Its thesis was simple and direct, that the Jewish people were plotting to take over the world, proven to be a forgery of work by Morris Jolly written in 1864 to demonstrate Napoleon's delusions of world domination. Wait, Napoleon's French. What has he got to do with? Let me read that again. Hold, please, because I don't, again, the goal is not to spew misinformation and to continue on in that way. They're plotting to take over the world, proven to be a forgery, a work by Morris Jolly, written in 1864, to demonstrate Napoleon's delusions of world domination. The protocols have been labeled a pretext and rationale for anti-Semitism by the Encyclopedia Britannica. Its contents influenced men such as Henry Ford, who published excerpts in his Dearborn Independent newspaper, as well as a book entitled The International Jewish Person. The protocols are still sold today, usually through ads blatantly in hateful magazines. It is common fodder for those who believe that giant tragedy that seems like it was the revelation time, the tribulation, was a lie. It was also required reading in Germany during the days of the Third Reich. I had not heard. What is Napoleon is French? I don't understand what he has to do with written in. So wait a second. It was written about Napoleon in the first place, but he slapped somebody else's. History's been known to do that. Employing the character myth makes it easy for deniers to explain away the volumes of proof. When asked to explain the reasoning behind making them wear yellow stars on their clothes to identify them in European communities, Robert Farrason, former professor of literature at the University of Lyons too, and a denier, claims that it was a measure designed to protect German soldiers. Now, why is that? Why would it protect them? He said engaged in terrorism, black market arms trafficking, as well as other dangerous activities. Farrason said that the Jewish people, women, men, and children, were a formidable enemy. Now, he's giving resources as well in this article that we can go forward and look to if you would like. Now, I'm going to scroll through and I'm going to let you read some of this if you want. I'm going to include the link because some of this really is inconsistent. The numbers are obviously inconsistent. This is weird too. I don't understand this. This whole section makes no sense from what I learned. Now it says Michelangelo's mistakenly horned statue of Moses, on the other hand, continues to promote ignorance and prejudice. Again, that makes no sense to me. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this page and shing this for a second. Now, let me see. The Assumption of Moses and the Testament of Moses. Okay, so it says, why did he have to die outside of the promised land? The most plausible explanation comes from Richard Bauckham, who argues that the devil disputed with Michael about the body because Moses was a sinner. Furthermore, Moses was not just any sinner, but he was a murderer. In Exodus 2:12, Moses killed an Egyptian for beating one of the claim to Moses' body, and such a claim Moses' body, but over his soul. Because Moses had so flagrantly violated the law of God, he stood condemned. This explanation comports well with what we know of the devil, who is also called the accuser of the brethren in Revelation 12:10. Yeah, but Christ wasn't here yet. And if Moses broke one of the own laws that God had him made, but none of this even matters because Moses knew. We are told, and again, this is in a thing from a couple days ago, and I'm just gonna ramble for a minute here. We are told that I'm sorry, I lost track there looking at something. We're told that God tells Moses, I will only strive with mankind for 120 years. He basically sits down and dies. Now, Christ wasn't here yet at that time, but it's very possible that, again, our bodies are needed. Catholics are warned over and over again to not cremate yourself, to not be cremated, to not consent to being cremated. Now, I'm going to Google something, and this is going to be the next video topic, and I want you to check it out. All right, I'm going to share this tab. There we go. All right. This is after Christ, obviously. So Moses is not the same, but if God knows, and he does, that everybody is going to need resurrected, and Satan being very materially driven, not understanding spirit much at all, and again, that's how a lot of Old Testament people are too. Everything was very material because there was no way into heaven, allegedly. They could not get into any promised land. There was no heaven. There was no afterlife, really. In the Old Testament, they didn't deal in that. Okay. They went to Abraham's bosom. They would go to Sheol, which is basically purgatory, but they related to Hades back then, which Hades is Hades. So, anyways, it's very possible that Satan, again, he wants people buried and he wants people buried 6 feet under. There's something to that. We're not supposed to be cremated. In the 1800s, being buried alive was very, very common. And again, you should ask yourself why that is. Why would so many people just suddenly be buried alive? Why is that? Hmm? It was so common, they even started putting bells on top of people's plots. Being buried alive was so common in the Victorian era. And look, I just found this because I've looked at it from time to time, but I didn't know this article was there. And I have never Googled 1800s before. Usually I was pretty broad and I'd search instances of people being buried alive. But now I focused in and I honed in on the 1800s. Being buried alive was so common in the Victorian era that doctors used these 10 methods to prevent it. You're like, Jen, what has this got to do with the London Bridge? Well, I'm going to use that as a little more evidence. Last night, to fall asleep, I was really stressed out and I'm like, I just need to fall asleep to something that's usually I'll put on the rain or some wind, some nature sounds. But last night I put on an old 1970s scary movie with David Hasselhoff on Creature Features on YouTube, which is a funny channel. That guy looks like my mother in the face, just like her, but it's all right because they don't show him much and he's funny, so I like him. And I like the butler, he's hilarious. But anyways, in this movie with David Hasselhoff, it's called Terror on the London Bridge. Long story short, I bet you didn't know this and I didn't either. The London Bridge has been moved. Yeah, it was moved. It was moved to where? Arizona. They took the outer surfacing, the facade, all of the bricks, and allegedly shipped them all to Arizona. The London Bridge is now in Arizona. It has been since like the late 70s. How many of you knew that? London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. Or Fergie, London, London, London Bridge. Yeah. So has anyone else heard that? Never did. Never in my life have I heard that. But it's an 80s movie. I've seen him in movies back then. Looks the same. Looks pretty 80s. Looks pretty retro. All this add up to? I don't know, guys. I don't know. But when I tell you we've been lied to about a whole lot, we've been lied to about a whole lot. Hey, Alexa wrote this on December 23rd, 2017, which is an occult day. Says wisely they leave the graves open for the dead because some too early are brought to bed. The medical technologies of today provide invaluable services. Do they? Do they really? Because they say what time of death and they make it all look very official, don't they? Well, when you look up the word death, there is no real definition. It's when your physiological systems cease to operate. What does that mean? Sometimes your organs go first, sometimes your senses go first. All the years I worked in nursing, never did once did somebody die in my presence, and I worked in every department just about. I took care of my dad as he was passing. He did not die while I was in the room. I took care of my father-in-law allegedly as he was passing. He did not die while I was in the room. Nobody did, ever. And if you are the person who goes to concerts, you go to malls, you go places a lot, you're out in public a lot, with the amount of population we allegedly have, we should see people dying on a regular basis. If people die every second, and I'm learning, I used to believe that numbers couldn't lie, but they absolutely can. Statistics lie all the time because I've looked up statistics for one thing, like for example, oh, I don't know, the amount of women who are killed by their abusive partners. This actually made me and my son argue because Google gave him different answers than it gave me. I went to NIH.org, of course, and it was the percentages of women who were killed by their abusive spouses. And then I went to the amount of men who kill their abused the spouses that they abuse. Well, those numbers should reflect each other. They don't. They're not. They don't add up to 100%, and they should always add up to 100%. So when I tell you statistics are unreliable, I know because I've looked into them several times since our lockdown started, because I started to suspect that we were being fed a bunch of BS about pretty much everything. So this is going to be the next topic. The reason that I talked about Moses and the fight for his body and about how death is an illusion. And then I was looking at why does he have horns? Because again, truth matters. The truth is important, and we should all strive for that each day, and we should not be passing on misinformation. Now, I'm going to look up one more thing just so again, because I always back up what I bring to you. I don't just talk out my, you know what. Girl, if you don't quit that, it is mommy. And I don't want you being that way with Samson either. You're mean. Stop it. Okay. What was the other thing now? I done forgot. The movie. Terror. Oh, wait, no. I don't even have to look that up because I'll just show you. In Arizona. It's just like the thing that every country pretty much has one, but we were told it was a gift from France. But everybody has one. All right, either moved it all around and they're showing us pictures of our history and we are just the ones who have it this time. Or it is literally on every nation. Right here, this is where the movie took place. It's on Lake Havasu City. Oddly enough, there are a few movies in this area that are connected. And what I mean by that, I mean in ways that shouldn't be connected if they're fictional. Much like, oh, I don't know, how the character from Parks and Recreation, I never even watched it, but that guy's character, is connected to his character in Severance. We're also going to look at that, especially when we look at the color blue, because that talks about people's brains being severed and they have a work persona and a home persona. Kind of stuff I've been talking about. If our lives are really, really long, I wonder how hard it would be to just do like the movie I watched the other day, the Christina Ricci one, where they tell her she's dead. They keep putting this sodium pentothal, whatever it is, to make people very easily persuaded. And he kept telling her, Liam Neeson, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you've already died. And then they bury her alive after telling her she is dead. And her boyfriend goes to get her, and they do the same thing with him. They tell everybody else that he died in a car accident while they just let him get colder and colder and colder and end up burying him alive. Only they don't stay buried, they go start new lives. They're showing us all this in fiction for a reason. The London Bridge. And again, this is to show us how much we don't know and how much in movies is actually kind of true. The London Bridge in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, when it was built in the 1830s, it spanned the River Thames in London, England. So, either A, in 1968, they took the time and took every single brick off of there and transported it all the way to America, or London is also America, is in the United States. Again, what are they actually telling us here? If I go out there and I go to the airport and I try to get on a plane, am I going to get anywhere? Like, I don't think we're in a simulation, but we're not in Kansas yet. Something's not right. I know that they move houses across the nation. I've seen it happen when I've been traveling. This is a whole nother thing. They would have to this is a production. Down. Anyway, 68, the bridge was purchased from the City of London by Robert P. McCullough. Oh, sounds like that guy at the water or that works for the city that kept trying to show me where the water was in every building I work for. I don't know what his deal is. They want me to like consent to doing something to the water, which I do not. Oh, speaking of, we're gonna have to talk about that guy too, and I don't want to talk about him. The guy who replaced Charles Schwab. Ugh. I'll make a separate video about that. I'll either do another quick live or I'll upload a video. I don't know. We'll see. However, McCullough only had the exterior granite blocks from the original bridge cut and transported to the U.S. for use in the construction of a new bridge in Lake Havasu City, a planned community he established in 1964 on the shore of Lake Havasu. The only parts of the new London Bridge that made it to Arizona were the exterior masonry. What's interesting is you have a lot of a copy in the movie Terror on the London Bridge. There's a copycat killer of gosh, the guy from the Victorian era that Jack the Ripper. I'm not into serial, like it's not a thing for me. He starts ending people in this movie. But there's a lot of movies that take place on Lake Havasu. Okay, so the bridge is a reinforced concrete. But yes, right before the opening, he ends somebody on the bridge, which is very symbolic of it being a ritual sacrifice. And it just made me wonder about all these ribbon cutting ceremonies that we see and about the shovels in the ground and all the stories about when the bridges were made and all the alleged people that pass away while they're being made and they just leave them in there while the concrete's being poured and on it goes. Parts of the new London Bridge where the exterior masonry completed in 1971 along with a bridge canal separating the peninsula from the mainland and links mainland Lake Havasu City with Pittsburgh Point. The rededication of the London Bridge took place on October 10th, 1971. It's kind of creepy. Okay. My point is, nothing is what it seems like. I had never heard of this. I'm sure it can be done, but it's quite the production. The question is why? Why would you do such a thing as this? What is the purpose and the point of it? Um, My mind goes to ritualistic. It's some type of thing that we don't fully understand. Maybe it allows for the spirit of the monarchy then to be on the shores of America if we're even separated at all. I'm really starting to doubt it myself. I've not spoken with anyone on a plane who's ever been able to look out and say, for 100% fact, we live on a plane or a ball. And why can't you tell me this? Nobody remembers what they do on a flight. Why don't you remember it? And why are there so many movies about things that take place on airplanes? Something is really wrong. And that's why I do this is we're searching for truth and we're searching for it wherever it may be found. I want to know if Moses had horns or not. I want to know what the truth is. I want to know where his real body went. I want to know why they tell us our bodies don't matter when they seem to matter a heck of a lot. I want to know these things. Don't you? I love you guys. Be a blessing today and not a burden. Have a blessed day. I'm going to go now. I love you. Bye.